Here with reaction tonight, Fox News contributor, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is back with us. You know, Mr. Secretary, in my mind, my heart, my soul, I just fundamentally know that making a deal for hostages will likely in the end result with more hostage taking. That's what I believe. However, with that said, I do believe Israel is doing the right thing. They care about their citizens. They have an opportunity. The deal is about as unfair as any as you can get. But if I was a family member, I know what I would want. Do I believe in my heart it's probably the wrong thing to do? Probably. But you got to hope and pray that that will eventually lead for the opportunity for Israel to finally take out Hamas.
Well, Sean, it's a horrific decision that the leadership in Israel has had to make. I suspect they have a plan. They are not naive. Unlike our president, they understand that Iran is behind this and that they've got to wipe Hamas from the face of Gaza, and that they will. I'm confident that they're going to do everything they can to get every one of these prisoners home, and then they're going to complete the necessary. They're going to do that hard work. They're going to take Hamas out. They're going to create a security architecture for themselves where they never have to face this again from the Gaza Strip. And they won't be silly enough to put the Palestinian Authority in charge in Gaza. They won't be silly enough to ever underestimate Hezbollah. They're going to do the things they need to. I wish our president was as serious about protecting the American people and our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines as I'm confident the Israeli leadership is going to be to protect their own citizens in Israel.
But we all know what's happening during the ceasefire. They are rearming. They are recalibrating their war strategy. They are re-upping their supplies. So this pause gives them an opportunity to reconfigure how they are going to approach Israel in the future. Does that hurt Israel's efforts to wipe out Hamas?
It'll make it harder. It'll make it last longer. But I'm confident the Israelis will still figure their way through this. They've got to confront this. The very reason that they took these hostages is to the point you made earlier, Sean. We know they'll take more hostages if they don't get this right. The Hamas guys, the Iranian guys, they'll rearm, they'll refit, they'll regroup. But the Israelis will do the same. They're watching, they're figuring this out. I'm very confident. It may be more costly. It may be a more difficult conflict because the pause they took to get these citizens home. I can't think of any other decision they could have possibly made in the face of the political pressure and the enormity of getting these citizens home to their families. I'm confident the Israelis will get this right, but they're going to need time, Sean. And I think President Biden has been tougher on the Israelis than he's been on Hamas in the sense that he has put pressure on them at every turn to remind them of their duties to international law. Instead of saying, nope, you've got a job to do, go do it. It's in the benefit of not only the citizens of Israel, it's good for America, it's good for the people living in Gaza, and it's good for the entire region, the Arab Gulf states as well. Hamas being gone is good for the entire world.
Mr. Secretary, I have a lot of sources in Israel. You know, I've been in those terror tunnels. I've been to border towns in Israel with Gaza. I know I've been there during flare-ups, and I'm really having a hard time because my sources all confirm what you just said, and that is especially behind the scenes. Publicly, Biden is saying one thing. Behind the scenes, he's saying something very different. He's putting massive pressure on the Israelis in terms of what they can do about ceasefires. And now he apologized, according to a report, to Muslim American leaders because he dared to question the death toll put out by Hamas. And what's amazing about this is their history is one of using civilians as human shields. Their history is firing rockets from schools and from hospitals. Their history of propaganda was to blame Israel for shooting, blowing up a hospital that was never blown up and killing 500 innocent doctors, nurses, and patients that never died. And the media in this country ran with it. So I'm trying to understand, why would he make that apology today?
It's incomprehensible, Sean. I still doubt everything that Hamas says, including the death casualty figures that they have put forward. And we know this, too. Those casualties that have taken place are a direct result of the terror, the barbaric terror that took place on October 7th. Israel had no intention of going into Gaza. Indeed, they left in 2006. They've only gone into Gaza now because they've got to do the thing that will protect the Israeli citizens in the years ahead. And so I can't for the life of me figure out why President Biden would apologize for doubting something that Hamas says. I don't believe a word they say. I don't believe them with respect to these hostages. Sean, I'm afraid they'll go back at it again, just as the Iranians did. right? We gave $6 billion in ransom to the Iranian regime to get 5 Americans home, and there are now more than 5 Americans held by the Iranians today. We're only rewarding that bad behavior. It is a terrible situation, and we've got to make sure we punish not only Hamas, but that the Iranians are punished too. If we don't do that, Sean, we'll still have missiles being fired at our soldiers all throughout the Middle East, and we'll have Americans under threat all across the world as well.
Mr. Secretary, last question, and I've asked you this before. For me, we have to define what real victory would be. Wouldn't that mean that Gaza can no longer be a launching pad for rockets into Israel moving forward? But wouldn't that also have to include that Lebanon and Hezbollah, that they could no longer launch missiles from the north into Israel? And wouldn't it have to mean on some level that the head of the snake, Iran, is dealt with in some capacity?
Yes, Sean, all 3 of those have to take place. Israel can never go back to the situation where they can be threatened with artillery that sits right across its border, whether that is from the Gaza Strip, whether that is from southern Lebanon, from Hezbollah, whether it's from the Houthi rebels, the terrorists in Yemen, or the terrorists that sit in the Palestinian West Bank as well. Now, Israel is going to have to do that. And then the United States is going to have to lead a coalition to re-isolate Iran the same way it was for 4 years when we were in office, Sean. Isolate Iran, build out friends and allies in the region, and make sure that Iran doesn't continue to be the world's largest state sponsor of terror. It is doable, and each of those things must be accomplished.
I remind people you were part of the effort when President Trump was in office of taking out Soleimani, the #1 state sponsor of terror. That would be Iran. Secretary Pompeo, thank you as